everybody. Put this up here. Oh, there we are. Welcome back to the next edition of STATURDAY Chat Live here on October 28th, 2023. I hope you and everyone you care about is doing well. It's so good to be back. We haven't been here in a month, and yeah, it's been a while, but the channel has been busy, and of course I'll talk about that sort of as we go. And you know the way this works, if you're new to the stream, let me kind of tell you how this works. So this is a kind of a freewheeling, there's no real, structure, I guess, or topic to the live stream. It's just me making myself available to you all who are subscribers or watchers on the channel or on LinkedIn to answer any questions or to field any comments you might have or to share ideas or whatever else it might be. So that's kind of what this live stream is for. It's really for you. And the way this works is you can make any questions or comments or whatever in the chat, and I will do my best to answer them live here in the live stream. If I cannot do that live, then you can always reach out to me on LinkedIn is probably the best way, or through my website or something like that, and I'll show you how to do that. But that's kind of the best way to get a hold of me if we can't answer whatever question or comment you might have here while the stream is live. So if you're in the stream right now, let me know where you're watching from. I always like knowing where in the world everyone is watching from. It gives me a sense of perspective about our message we're trying to get out here. So make sure you put that in the chat and we'll get started. So as you know, if you've been on the stream before or on the channel before, I was on vacation over the past month in early October in Switzerland, which I have my Switzerland shirt on today, it was epic. I needed a vacation. I needed to get away for a couple weeks and just enjoy. Obviously, it's stunningly beautiful over there. It's actually epically beautiful, and it was good to go over there and explore a bit of the world and do some hiking and see some amazing things. Again, it's very important, I think, for everyone, regardless of where you are sort of in life, to set off that time to take a break. You don't have to go halfway around the world or anything like that necessarily. It can be relatively close or even, in your hometown, but to set some time aside to really take a break and decouple from the day-to-day stuff, because in the long run that makes us better and gives us a refresh. And so my refresh this year was in Switzerland, and at some point I'll put together some photos and stuff that I took, and I'll probably put a link to that on LinkedIn if you're interested in seeing some of the photos I took. So I am a photographer, so it's not like just, here's me, my hamburger or something. I'll put those out if you want to see them, and so on and so forth. So yeah, it's been a crazy month, but it's good to be back and try to get back into the groove. I got back last week, and I've already been through 1 week of back to work, which is always a bit crazy, but settled in fine. And I got back just in time here where I live in Ohio for the leaves to be changed. So it all worked out. It was a great trip over there. And if you have any questions about it, I'm more than happy to answer questions about that trip. But we'll get on with some of the channel stuff, and we'll go from there. So if you're subscribed to the channel, and hopefully you should be, you've seen that I've been releasing videos pretty much every day, because I did a whole lot of work before my trip and then scheduled all those videos to release while I was gone. So those have been releasing pretty much every day. It's a different type of content that I've been experimenting with. And it's a lot of work to do those. And someone said they're AI generated. They are absolutely not. I can attest to how much work goes into them. Do a lot of editing in DaVinci Resolve and a lot of work with the captions and everything to get those out. It's a lot of work. But they're meant to be a different kind of content that I'm kind of exploring at this sort of stage. Quick topic overviews that are just basically audio and text. If someone is trying to get a feel for a topic or trying to review a topic for a test or something like that, or refresh their memory, or watch it before they go into class or something like that. They're just meant to be like 2.5 to 4 minutes, quick hit, same structure of each one to refresh the memory or whatever else it might be, whatever use the viewer might put them to. It's just a different kind of a video that I've been playing with, and we'll see. It does not mean I'm not going to stop doing my other type of content, but I just wanted to explore this type right now, get into a workflow with it, and just kind of see, where it goes. So because they are shorter, and they're shorter obviously, but the way the workflow I have makes it so that I can create a lot of videos sort of quickly. So it's also a way to get a bit more content out there for people, to help people. And of course, that's always a good thing as well. So I'm going to keep doing that. I have some videos that are already scheduled to come out, and I have other topics I want to do with those sort of videos. So we're going to continue that. I do have other topics I want to get into, and I have some more time. Usually in December, everything at my day job kind of slows down in December, and then we have the week between Christmas and New Year's completely off. It's just free off vacation. So I can use some of that time to do some of the longer form content that I have lined up. I'm kind of planning those out right now, what I want to do with that. And then when I have the time, I'm not going. Last year I went to Amsterdam during that week, but this year I'm going to stay home, and I can use that time to do some of the longer form content that a lot of you know me for. So plenty of content coming out of all varieties, all right? So rest assured that the content will keep coming. I will also say about the new content that I'm releasing is that if you've been following me for a while, you know that to me, it is very important in statistics and data science and related fields to not only know about that, but also know about the discipline, the broader discipline in which you're working. So maybe you're a data scientist or a statistician or machine learning engineer or whatever for a healthcare company. Well, you should know a little bit more about the healthcare industry and the business of healthcare. If you work in the finance industry, you should have an idea of, the current state of the economy where you live, or the global economy, markets, supply chains and stuff. Have that broader perspective of more than just the stats, data science, the ML and all that kind of stuff. So that being said, the reason I'm doing some of these videos I'm releasing now is to provide people that sort of quick hit, broader context, because they're comprehensive in terms of what they cover, but they're very short. So it contextualizes, at least for me, the area that I work in, which is business. So my day job is working for a company that creates content in business statistics, business analytics, management science, supply chain, operations, and stuff like that. But without the broader context of business, for me, the stats and data science stuff just seems very separated. So I try to have the context in which I'm working, and it anchors the main thing by having the broader context. So that's why another reason why I'm doing those videos is because it broadens out the context of stats and data science and machine learning and stuff, to give viewers, a sense of embed their work in a foundation of whatever discipline that they happen to be working in, which in my case is business. So that's another reason to do it. All right. All right. So make sure if you have any comments or questions, put them in the live stream. I'm happy to answer them for you the best I can. So I'm going to take a drink and see if anyone has a comment or question. And we'll keep going from there. So some of the topics I have planned out are more in that sort of machine learning space. People have been asking me for some content sort of along those lines for years now. I've somewhat hesitated because I'm not sure I had anything more to add. There's so much out there already, right? I mean, on YouTube alone, but all kinds of sites where you can take courses and this kind of stuff and this and that. I'm not sure I could add anything more, but I have an idea of a way to do that where I think it might add a little bit to the conversation, right? So I have an idea, and we'll see, how it pans out in terms of time. As you know, YouTube is not my full-time job. There's no way I couldn't even eat on what I make on YouTube. I couldn't feed myself. It's so little. So it's something I do when I have the time, and if I can batch make videos, it's just something I do to help people with whatever time resources I have. And that is the best I can do. I've been doing it for almost 11 years now, so I have no plans of stopping, but it's just the reality of there's only 24 hours in the day, and it's not like my full-time gig or anything. So, all right, let's see. Question. Darlading. I think I'm saying that right. I just want to thank you for your intro stats series. It's the best I've come across and helped more than any stats course I've taken. Well, you are very, very welcome. I'm glad you find them helpful. I mean, that's the point, right? The whole point. I made a post along these lines on LinkedIn earlier today, and that is so I'm like a level 10 Google guide. So if you don't know, Google guides are people who, either in their local community or when they travel, post reviews, ratings, and especially photos of the places they are going. So I'm like a level 10 Google guide because I do all that when I have the chance to travel. But I'm already a photographer, so I take the pictures anyway. So why not just take the pictures I'm already taking? And I like helping people, and I combine it. So I'm already doing a lot of it, and then combine it into something that helps other people. And that's where I do the Google Guides, wherever I sort of go. These stats videos are the same way. So I am not a statistician. My degrees are not in math or stats or anything like that. All of my education in degrees are in education. I'm a teacher. I'm a learner first, but I'm a teacher. So what I've done is combined my love of learning and teaching with my interest in stats and ML and stuff like that. So I've combined two things I already like. I like the video element of it too, into something that helps people. So that's why I do it. And I'm glad you found the videos helpful, and they continue to be helpful after all these years. And hopefully we'll keep making more of them. But kudos to you, by the way, for going out and finding the video help or the help that you needed, because many people don't even put in that much effort. So you put in the effort to go find the videos and help that you needed, and that can make all the difference. So also kudos to you. All right. All right, so thank you for doing these videos. You are very, very welcome. Excellent. Let's see here. You're very welcome. Trying to get through the chat here. I'm going to get to this one first. So p-value and SPSS, do you have a video for this? So I have many videos that talk about p-values, and whether it's an SPSS or Excel or R or whatever else, a p-value is a p-value. It's the same thing. So whether or not it's an SPSS or not really doesn't matter per se. It's how to interpret what that p-value means, regardless of whatever software you're using. So I don't think I use SPSS in my videos because that's more of a social science software package that was bought by IBM, I believe it was. So I haven't used SPSS in many years. I used to use it back in my master's level. That's 20 years ago, over 20 years ago. So, but I do have Minitab screenshots in there, and they look almost the same. So when the software produces the data table, it has all the statistics in it. They all basically look the same. So I'll just focus on being able to interpret the output that SPSS or Minitab or whatever else gives you regardless, or Excel regardless. So focus on the p-value part, and then if you understand the p-value aspect, then it doesn't matter what software you use. All right. All right, so I think I've answered that. So Ada, I think I'm saying that correctly. Sorry if I'm not. I'm a PhD in psychology, and I use quantitative methodology. I enjoy refreshing statistics, and I'm reading daily the Hayes process. I've lost my SPSS license, looking for stats programs. So a couple of things here. If you've lost your SPSS license, it depends on what do you mean by lost. Has it expired? Have you lost the code? Just lost access to it or something like that? If it's not an expired situation and you've lost the code itself, sometimes you can reach out to these companies. I know it seems obvious, but and they can sometimes send you a new code or send you your old code if you're still looking for that. If you're still involved in a higher education program, oftentimes you can get that code through the university itself, either through your department or through the technology services office on campus or in institution. May not be free, but it can be a significantly cheaper license. Also, if you have an EDU address, you can get significantly cheaper licenses for this. And some of this stuff you may already know, everyone may already know. But there are ways to stick with the software you're familiar with. May not be exactly free, but it can be reduced or free if you're just trying to find the code. So again, here it depends maybe on what you mean by lost. Yeah, so, but if you're looking for, stats programs besides SPSS, and you say, cheaper ones, of course. So obviously the stats type software is going to fall into two camps. So you're going to have proprietary, commercial type software. Actually, there's three. I'll get to the third one in a minute. You're going to have commercial proprietary type software, such as the SPSS, Minitab, what's another one? Stata, whatever else. So those are Jump, JMP Jump. So those are proprietary commercial types of software. Then you have open source software, so R, Python, and then sometimes other ones built on top of that. So Orange is the one I like. Orange is a visual programming interface that is built on top of Python. Of course, RStudio runs R inside of it. And, there are some others. So you have KNIME, which is a KNIME. There's a free version of that, I believe. There are some other ones. They're not necessarily stat software in each case, but you can look into those. And the third type of software you can use, which is what I call the ubiquitous. And that would be things like Excel with the data analysis toolpack add-in, Google Sheets. There's a version of the toolpack add-in for Google Sheets. And there are third-party plugins or third-party apps that you can put into Excel that can do more advanced things. The one I like is called XLStat. So XLStat. So it's a company that we work with in my day job, and they have some really awesome add-ins for Excel that greatly expand Excel's capabilities in terms of statistics, data science, machine learning, and so on and so forth. So, you have the proprietary commercial, the open source you can look into, or what I would call the ubiquitous, which is primarily Excel and Google Sheets with their internal capabilities, and then add-ins you can plug into them that expand. Some of those add-ins are free, some of those add-ins are paid, but they're usually a lot cheaper than full-blown software. So those are really the only really three categories of software that you can really look into. Some of these software I will say too, some of these software companies now offer their software as a service, where it's more like a subscription-based model. So like over time, it's cheaper. It's not like one big lump sum. And because it's a sort of a subscription type service, you always get the updates. It's just, that's the trade-off. So you can look into something, along those lines as well. But there are always trade-offs here. There's no silver bullet, because if there was a silver bullet, all these other ones wouldn't exist. So the paid commercial software is usually more polished. It's easier, it has a nice UI to it, and that's what you get. That's what you're paying for. Whereas in the open source software, you have to at least basically know how to code a little bit. Even though if you're doing basic stuff, it's not too difficult to learn how to do that. So you have to be comfortable in a coding environment and write scripts and stuff like that. But it's free, very powerful, large community of support, but that's a trade-off. And then, of course, Excel and Google Sheets, they're not really stats software programs. They're spreadsheets, which are not the same thing. And they're not really built to do that kind of stuff, so you have to use the add-ins. So that's the trade-off there. So regardless of where you are in the software space, there's always some trade-off somewhere. And it's just deciding which trade-off you want to make. Cost, ease of use, or maybe a more limited functionality. Those are the things you always have to balance. So, okay. All right. Thanks for the videos. They helped me in the past. Excellent. You are very welcome. I hope they continue to help you if you have to review a topic, or I go into other topics that will expand your knowledge, which I hope to go into. So, okay, here, looking at the chat. Do you have a video for the p-value? I have tons of videos that deal with p-values. So any of the videos, let me see here. Oh, I have this up. Yeah, so obviously here's the channel right here. If you go to playlists, you can see all the playlists I have here, the popular ones. Basically anything like around confidence interval estimation onward. Okay, so playlist 8 onward is going to deal, and I guess probably playlist 6 here, somewhere in here. Yeah, so if you look down here, right here, like playlist 6, like onward. So once you get into continuous probability distributions and you're looking at the area under the normal curve, you're getting into p-values, you know, somewhat. But where you really get into p-values is when you're doing hypothesis testing. So once you get into interval estimation, hypothesis testing in here, like 8, 9, 10, 11, it's all about p-values. So, you know, if you look through those, you will see p-value, p-value, p-value everywhere. You know, and remember, the p-value is just, you know, the probability of getting the result you got due to chance alone. You know, basically, that's why we look at the tails of that distribution. So if you're looking for p-value refresher or some examples, and like all my videos have like examples in them. They're not just, well, here's a p-value and here's the area under the curve. I do that, but it's also like, okay, here's a problem, and let's walk through the problem, and like how do we interpret the p-values and so on. So look through these playlists here, like 6, but especially 8, 9, 10 in there, 8, 9, 10 especially. It's all p-values. Okay. So look through those. My recommendation on that. Where can I donate? If you're interested in donating to the channel, there are a couple of different ways. I have a PayPal tip jar, which you can see here. Did they move it? Did they change it? Yeah, no, they didn't. I'll put it back up here. So on my channel, under the About right here, if you go to my channel About at the bottom, you will see this PayPal tip jar. So it's kind of like buy me a coffee or whatever. That's a tip jar that I have on there for any sort of, if people want to help out with the channel, I appreciate that, of course. Also here on YouTube, there are donate buttons. There are super thanks and super chats and stuff like that that you can help, that you can do. If I would appreciate it if you like to help out with the channel, of course. So none of this is free for me. I have to buy software like everyone else and hardware to do all this stuff, and my time and everything. So it does have a cost to it. So if you're willing to help out, I appreciate it. But of course, I don't spend my time asking, you know, for money. So, but I appreciate any contributions either to the PayPal tip jar, super thanks, super chats, or whatever else. But thank you for asking. Okay, here, trucking right along. Jay, and isn't AI just glorified stats? No. It has foundation in statistics, of course, like pretty much all this stuff does. It depends on what you mean by AI, because AI can mean many things nowadays. It can mean everything from, chat GPT, text-based primarily type stuff, all the way up to the Mid-Journeys and DALL-Es of the world, to audio type stuff. It really depends on what you mean. But, underneath, at the foundation of all of this is statistics, but it definitely goes beyond what you would consider stats, So once you get into like transformers and like attention type stuff and like that's beyond. I'll tell you what it is a lot like. It's a lot of linear algebra or finite math, however you want to think of it. So it's a lot of matrix operations and stuff like that. So it's kind of a mix, but at the foundation, it's basic statistics, of course. So, but it's much, much, much more complex than that. There's actually a really good book I read. I wasn't prepared. I could probably dig it up maybe, but there's a book I read that actually goes into the bridge between like the basic statistical stuff into the more advanced stuff with AI. And it's like an approachable explanation of the mathematics. So I have to figure out what that was. I want to spend time digging around here because I think it's an ebook I got on. It's an ebook I got on Amazon. I'm almost positive, but I can't remember what the title of it was. Okay, good question. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you, Guadalupe, for the super chat. I really, really, really appreciate that. Yeah, I don't need a whole lot to keep going. Basically, everything everyone donates to the channel goes back into the channel plus some. Even $10 for me is 4 cups of coffee. And I can sit and sip coffee and work for hours and hours and hours. So I appreciate that very, very much. It's very kind of you. Thank you. I know we're all struggling and, we're all looking at every dollar we have to work with. So I appreciate that very much. So, yep. So it's expired and it's expensive. I'm in private practice. Yeah. So yeah, that's sort of the triangle trade-off. Like I said, proprietary commercial, SPSS, Minitab, Jump, Stata, and there's some other ones. You can look at those. You can learn the open source stuff with R and/or Python, and then some programs built on top of them. And then you have Excel, Google Sheets with some additional things. And there's a trade-off. There's a trade-off everywhere with that kind of stuff. Some people will tell you to learn R and/or Python. If you're just doing stats, then R is probably the better option to learn. And the thing about R is once you and fire up RStudio is very easy to use. They've made it very easy to use over the years. And once you learn how to do, and there are so many built-in functions and things, like once you load in your data set, you put your data set into a variable basically, and then you just call different functions with an R on it. If you're just doing basic sort of stuff, so that it might be worth giving R a whirl if you are, want something that's free that also teaches you a very valuable skill and is fairly straightforward to learn. So, okay. All right. Let's see here. Jotu? Hope I'm saying that correctly. Obviously I'm based in the US, so I'm only used to a limited number of names. So if I mispronounce your name, I'm so sorry. I do my best to try to look at it, but you can always correct me in the chat phonetically if I'm not saying it correctly, because everyone deserves to have their name said correctly. Let's see. Thank you so much for creating these awesome videos. Is there a video on significance testing between proportions and means? So absolutely, of course. So there's all kinds of 2-sample type test videos. We go to here. So basically, once you get into um, you know, well, you can do single sample with these sort of stuff, single sample proportions and stuff. But once you, again, the same part of the stats curriculum applies here too. So if you're looking at significance levels for 1 and 2 sample type tests, then it's always going to be sort of in here. So 9, 10, 11, or those are that's like, by the way, these 9, 10, 11 playlists are really like the fundamental, like the meat of the sandwich in introductory statistics. So interval estimation, 1 sample and 2 sample hypothesis testing. Once that's really like that really first fundamental idea. And in here, you're going to have all the significance tests that go along with those. So for single sample, if you're comparing a sample against a hypothesized value, I think the example I used in the video was, a product. So if you go to the store and buy a product, it says there's this much in this product. There is 12 ounces of cereal in this box. There is 16 ounces of water in this bottle. There is 3 ounces of cheese in this package or whatever else. They're making a claim about that product. And what you could do is just get a sample of that product, boxes of cereal or bottles of water or pieces of cheese or whatever else, and you can measure them and you can compare those means against the hypothesized mean that's put on the package. And you can see if there's a significant difference between what they say is in the product and what is actually in the product. And of course, the idea here of significance and p-values is that there's going to be natural variation in those products just naturally. But the question is whether that natural variation exceeds what you'd expect based on chance alone. So that's the idea that we're getting at in p-values and significance testing. So this area here is where you can really focus on those topics if you want to go back and take a look. It's a very fundamental idea in statistics, of course, but also just in our everyday thinking, right? Like we think like this all the time. So back when I drove to work 3 years ago, we all work from home now, at least my company does. So when I would drive to work, it would take about 4 minutes. Now, I know it doesn't take exactly 4 minutes, right? But on average, 4 minutes. But let's say one day there's an accident, or the weather is really bad, or something else between here and there, and it takes me 8 minutes, takes double. Well, that's obviously beyond the range of normal variability that I would expect in my daily commute. So we think like this every day anyway, right? So, long way of answering. Here is where you sort of want to focus if you're looking at those ideas in there. Okay. Go back to me. You know, I have a face for radio. Okay. Thanks for videos. I've been able to understand the null hypothesis, but I'm still struggling with the 2 sample test and 1-tailed or 2-tailed. Where can I get more assistance with these topics? These playlists are popular today, so they would be in these playlists as well. So once you start in this hypothesis formulation, which will cover 2-tailed and single tail, so upper tail or lower tail hypothesis tests. And remember, like going back to my daily commute example. So when I used to drive to work, it'd take about 4 minutes to get there. But if there was a day that I made 1, 2, 3, 4, there were 5 stoplights between my house and work. Okay, so on average it'd take 4 minutes. But there are some days when I would hit all the lights. They would all be green. I would just go down the road, green light. Go down that road, green light. Go down that road, green light. Turn, green light, into work. So obviously my commute on that day was shorter than 4 minutes. So that's why we would say a two-tailed hypothesis test. So on average, my commute was 4 minutes, but it could be more or it could be less. So that's the two-tailed version of this sort of idea, okay? All the one-tailed version is saying is that we're only looking in one direction, okay? So I would say, you know, is my daily commute more than 4 minutes? Is the variation in my daily commute more than an average of 4 minutes? And if so, is that difference large enough in one direction to be bigger than what we'd expect based on chance alone? Or I could do the opposite. I could look just lower. And all we're doing is taking the 5%, so 2.5% on one tail, 2.5% on another tail in the two-tailed test, and we're putting all of that at 5%, the significance level or whatever, the alpha, in one tail. All right. So we're putting all that in sort of the one tail. So we're just it's the same idea, but we're just looking one direction or the other or both. But what you can say here in these playlists is that I go over all of that. So everything from formulating the hypothesis, that's two-tailed or one-tailed, and the alternative hypothesis and examples of all of them, all the way up to the two-tailed and paired samples and stuff like that. So, so that's where I would start. If you haven't already, is right in here. You want to start right in, 8, 9, 10. You could go 11 if you want, but really 8, 9, 10 is where you want to go. And I use a lot of visuals in there, so you can actually see what's happening with the curves. You can actually see what's going on. Okay. Up to here. So I don't program, but I know that AI is not as smart as people. It depends on how you define smart. That's. And by the way, the thing with AI is that in any given moment, it is the worst it's ever going to be. It's just going to keep getting better. I mean, it'll slow down and probably plateau sort of at some point because of limitations with data, limitations with NVIDIA GPUs, all that kind of stuff. But it's important to realize that AI is not thinking or anything. It's recalling and reassembling. So ChatGPT and other type of large language models, all they're really doing at the fundamental core is figuring out what word comes next based on the probabilities of the word before. It has all this, this massive data set that it's worked on, but it's not thinking in the sense that we think, or even other animals for that matter sort of think. So it's a reflection, and obviously the data that's gone into it is stuff that humans have created, so it's just reflecting back at this point what we've already done and put into it. But it's a very fancy recall machine that can do that extremely fast and extremely well and be creative about it. Because underlying all these systems is learning patterns. That's all they really are. They're learning patterns. So anything we give it, whether it's text, images, audio, whatever else, it's just learning the underlying patterns and then reproducing those patterns. So what I will say about this is that one thing the AI stuff over the past year has done for me is realized just how much untalked about and unacknowledged structure there is in everything. Just how language is structured, how images are structured, that's how we can tell this picture is of a fish, because there is structure to the image of what fish in general look like. There's so much underlying structure to the world through language and everything else that these large language models and these massive neural networks and stuff have just learned the underlying patterns and structure of what we've been doing for thousands of years. It's crazy. So is it smart in the way that humans are smart creatively and in, in using our ingenuity and stuff? No, at least not yet. But it's going to learn whatever we give it. So we'll see. Brave new world. All right. Might be phrased awkwardly. But can you think of the difference of two means as one pooled distribution? I.e., you have two something distributions that are pulling two. You're pulling into one and doing tests on a composite. I'd have to think about this. Two means one pooled distribution. Distributions are pulling into one and doing tests on a composite. So, pooling is an interesting topic that I haven't gotten into a whole lot, but it is possible to run some sort of test whereby you combine those two distributions into one larger distribution. But of course, once you pull those two smaller distributions together into a larger one, the standard error is going to change because your sample size is sort of changed. So the underlying characteristics of that distribution are going to be a bit different. And then you can compare those two individual ones to the pooled one. I guess you could do that. In an odd way. This is not exactly the same thing, so don't hold me to that. But in an odd way, this is kind of what ANOVA does. This is kind of what analysis of variance does. So, analysis of variance is really looking at whether or not, depending on how you split up the factors and stuff like that, is whether more than two groups come from the same underlying distribution, or whether one or more of them seem to be different than this mystery distribution in the background that you can't really see. But in the ANOVA videos, I do something like this where, you have three factors and the two distributions, two of the factors have distributions that are really close to each other. They kind of overlap. But then you have a third distribution that's way out on the end, it's further out. So the question becomes are those three distributions for those factors part of the same underlying distribution in the background? Or is that third one that's off to the side real far different enough than this pooled mystery distribution in the background that we can say that it's different than the others? So it's sort of a similar, it's not the same idea, but it's sort of a similar, idea that we're using in just basic single factor one-way ANOVA. So yeah, I mean, it is this idea here is kind of like that. If you think of a one-way ANOVA, that's kind of what we're doing. And the visuals I use in the video go over this a lot. So I'd think about that some more, but that's a interesting question. But as far as the two whatever, yeah, I have to think about that some more. Good question though, interesting question. In general, when you start pooling things, like the degrees of freedom and stuff get all weird. Everything starts getting very, very complicated and weird. So, something to look into. All right, where are we at? 45 minutes, okay. All right, so now, if you have any last questions, comments, or whatever else, now's the time to do that. I try to keep these under an hour, and we're at 45 minutes, so I want to make sure that we respect that time frame, but I do want to give you one last moment here to put any questions or comments in the stream that I might be able to answer. And while you do that, I'm going to take a drink and then have a few concluding things while I wait for your questions. Ooh, my voice. Okay. So while I wait for any last questions, So there'll be more videos coming out like the ones I've been doing, those quick overview kind of audio based ones. I'm actually going to go up to the coffee shop after this and edit a few more, try to get some of those out. And so those will be keep coming out. The next live stream will be in 2 weeks, which is November 11th. So 11/11, 11/11, November 11th. We'll do a live stream that weekend because the next weekend I will be out of town at a conference. So yeah, so we'll be doing this again in 2 weeks, so we can come back and talk about whatever else you want to talk about in 2 weeks. But yeah, look out for more videos coming out. I appreciate that. It also helps the channel if you just share the channel. So if you're in a class, if you're in some other learning setting or whatever else, you have classmates or other people you think, or if you're an instructor, other people you think might benefit from the channel and might be helped by it, just share it. That's one of the best things that anyone can do for the channel, because those people get the help, and it also helps just me as a creator. So that's one thing you can do. But I don't think I have any other comments or questions that have come in, so we don't have to belabor the point. But yeah, so thank you all for stopping by the live stream here on October 28th. I do appreciate that. But I will see you again in 2 weeks. So make sure you come back with your questions and comments then, and we'll do it all over. So I hope you and yours have a wonderful day, and I wish you all the best, and I'll see you again next time. Please take care. Bye-bye.